Alright, hello everybody. It's your boy Claire here, and I've just got a sort of a visual demonstration to show in this video of various Jug builds, and specifically the Battle Fury versus Mjolnir, I guess, sort of debate. I've been seeing quite a few Jugs in games, quite a few discussions about the builds in various discords, whether you go Battle Fury, whether you go like the Drums, Yasha, Maelstrom, this kind of deal. And I'm here to give a kind of new angle on this. One thing I hear that gets talked about a lot when we're talking about this Drums Yasha build is that early game. You have that Drums, it's a power spike. You have that Yasha, it's another big power spike. Comparatively, if you're going the if you're going the Battle Fury, you don't even have the Battle Fury by the time you would have a Drums and a Yasha. And the amount you can do early game and not losing, as opposed to just being slowly building a Battle Fury and then going and sitting in the jungle so you can get another item and fight, is really big, and that is definitely an important part of it. But I can also understand why like sub 5k players, so like 2, 3, 4k players, are maybe saying, well, in my pubs I won't be pressured, I'll be able to go farm my Battle Fury, and I don't really feel comfortable trying to force things to happen, I'd rather just rice. And so my take on this is that actually, even if you want to do this, I still think the Battle Fury is potentially worse. And so what I have here is the build I've seen very common recently. I've seen this like twice in the past 2 days for some reason, both by like low 4k players, I think, or one may have even been like mid 4k, where they get their Battle Fury, they farm up their Manta, and then they go into a catch item and they get an Abyssal Blade. And then over here we have an almost identical costing build where we have the Drums build up into Manta Mjolnir, and then we also have the Basher. And the catch here, obviously there's no Abyssal Blade active on this one, however you still have the Skull Basher passive, and it is about 25 MS faster. But of course the most important thing is the damage. The DPS on this build, I've had these running for a while now, has evened out to about 820. Meanwhile over here we're looking at 645 or 646 even. And the difference there is just so massive. We're talking almost 200 DPS difference, almost a 25% decrease if you're going this Battle Fury build for this mid-game build. Alternatively, I have a third build set up here. This one has arguably the worst catch of all, with Diffusal active, since it is purgeable / BKBable, it's not a stun. But the damage on this build, going Diffusal, Manta, Butterfly, is even higher than the other two at 936. This one's also a little bit cheaper, which I think evens out with the fact there's no farming item. You can't really rice as well with this build, you really have to be doing stuff. And this one is, once again, this is like a 50% increase from the Abyssal Rush build. Now of course the other option you can do with Battle Fury, which I've seen Amane do, and I do like this a lot better than the Abyssal Battle Fury build, is just going right into a Butterfly. This one's damage is actually pretty good. It's settled around 885, so higher than the Mjolnir, but lower than the Diffusal. Of course the issue with this build is that you have absolutely no, I guess, lockdown whatsoever. You have no Drums early for that catch, you have no Basher, you have no Diffusal active. And so this is the thing with Battle Fury. You're really forced to pick between having either acceptable damage or having the ability to lock someone down. And then of course when we get to the late game, I think it gets even worse, because obviously you'll eventually have, in theory, both these items. You'll have both a Butterfly and an Abyssal. But because that Mjolnir is just honestly just a better item for Jug, DPS wise, if we go ahead and look, I've got these two late game builds set up. They're exactly the same, except that one has a Mjolnir and one has a Battle Fury. And if we once again look at the DPS, the Mjolnir build is doing almost 300 more, almost 25% increase from the Battle Fury one. And that is kind of just my whole issue with this. You have to be ricing really hard and essentially be a full item ahead for this Battle Fury to ever pay off. It's obviously early weaker, everyone talks about that, but it is also, I think, very much weaker mid-game, and once you're at that 6th slot, it is unarguably just not a useful item compared to a Mjolnir. So for one final demonstration, I'm going to let these time out. I'm just going to show the Omni slash damage as well, because that is pretty important. So on this, there's a little more randomness in this one, but 13 2, 9.7-ish, massive difference. We look at the mid-game builds again. We'll just do 2 at a time. 6.5, 8.6, obviously the higher DPS doing a lot. Look at this one. And they all have the same talents, by the way. 6.2. Did I actually look at this one right? There goes 7. I think maybe just a little rollable 4. Once again, this one is going to be the lowest by quite a lot. So we get total damage, so 7. So the Battle Fury, Butterfly, and the Mjolnir both hitting at around 7. The Abyssal Rush only hitting about 6, and the Diffusal one hitting 9. Yeah, so TLDR, if you're going Battle Fury, your 6th slot is worse, your early game is worse, and I think usually your mid game is going to be worse as well. And I think unless you're just really attached to the build, you should probably give it up. And if you really insist on going the Battle Fury, I would really highly advise getting this Butterfly 3rd item so that you have some form of damage instead of this like crappy just utility rush where you don't really have any damage at all. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Thanks for watching.